Welcome back to the Werk, Mija podcast, a place for mujeres motivated to cultivate the life they deserve. I am your host, Xochitl Carmona, founder of Werk, Mija, an apparel and accessories brand for Latinas who unapologetically celebrate their culture through empowering and relatable messages. Thank you for joining me and enjoy these inspiring conversations. Hello and welcome. Today I'm joined by Paulette Piñero. Paulette is an award-winning social entrepreneur, Latina business coach, a writer, and speaker dedicated to closing the opportunity gap for Latinas and women of color. Through her company, Unstoppable Latina LLC, Paulette guides Latina entrepreneurs to harness their strengths, amplify their voice, and live their purpose so they become unstoppable CEOs of their small business. Using an equity and justice-focused approach, her business and marketing consulting services strive to create a world where entrepreneurship is diverse, purpose-driven, and joyful. So I am super excited to have her here on the podcast and learn more about her journey. Welcome, Paulette.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I am a fan of the podcast already since it started, so I'm so lucky to be here.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, fangirl. I'm fangirling over here. Super excited. And Paulette was kind enough to share her astrological placements, as we like to do here on the Werk, Mija podcast, just to get to know our jefas a little bit more deeply. And honestly, I'm kind of excited for these placements because I feel like they really tune in on, I feel like even just your bio, just how you kind of crafted your business in general. So for
I'm surprised. I have never seen this. Like, mama. So I was read it and I was like, look at this. It knows me.
That's me. Oh my gosh, I love that. So I asked her to share what we call our top three, our sun sign, our moon sign, and our rising. And our sun sign, as many of us know, is our birthday. So Paulette is a Pisces sun. Happy Pisces season as we're recording. Is your birthday past? Is it coming up?
It's on Tuesday, so almost here.
Okay, awesome. I was like, I hope it's not today. I hope you're not working on your birthday.
No, on my birthday, I go and eat for free and do all the free things that I get on my birthday. It's my national holiday.
That's how we treat it. Month, take it, season.
Yes.
I love it. So she is a Pisces sun. So I love a little water sign placement. They have a love for the humanity. And I love how specifically, when I was reading a little bit more about it, they were saying where it was like careers in the arts, music. Pisces are definitely very an artistic placement, but also marketing is a lot where our Pisces find their expression. And also they're very, I feel like our water signs, a very intuitive sign. And also your moon sign, which rules your body and your emotions, is also Pisces. We got a lot of water.
Yes. I was like, oh my God, this is so me. Very emotional, creative, but emotional, and like in tune with my emotions and the world's emotions.
Yes.
So I was like, see, yep.
That's his eye. Yes, our Pisces, they're very dreamy. They are, especially I feel like Pisces moon. A lot of artists have a Pisces moon, a lot of musicians. So I feel like they're really big empaths. So maybe a little bit chillona, as you said. Pero let's just call it being in touch with your feelings and your emotions.
Yes. Yes, let's call it that.
Let's call it that. But it's good. Yeah. Cry it out. Let it out.
And my husband has we've been talking and he's like, I didn't know people can feel all those emotions at the same time. And I'm like, it is not easy. what can I do? But it's like, yeah, it's a lot of emotions at the same. I also have ADHD, and it's like the Pisces with the emotions.
Oh,
so that's the 50 tabs open.
Oh, yeah.
It's great for creativity, but a lot of naps are needed.
Yes. Ooh, I love that. Great tip. And naps.
Yes.
I love that. And then finally, your rising sign, which is kind of our motivation for life, is a Libra rising and air sign. And I felt like this one, especially when kind of reading through your bio, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a Libra rising bio, because our Libra risings are the scales, the balance. They're here, quick to point out injustices. You prefer when people are treated fairly and as equals. And I love how specifically you crafted your business, using an equity and justice focused approach. I was like, oh my God, that is a Libra rising right there.
Yes.
Those words specifically.
People ask me a lot about like, but why do you put that in your bio? Or why do you add that on your content? Or why do you? And I'm like, that's the way that I show up. But also that, if that's what you're all about, then those are the people that I want around me. It's not that we have it all figured out around diversity, equity, justice, but that this is the path that we want to be in. And to me, the wording that we use to promote what we do, to promote our superpoderes, is as important as what we do. So I explicitly say it, and I can see, like, I've done pitches or I've done public speaking, and I say that some people like cuéntame, and others are like, ugh. And I'm like, this is exactly what I do. I want to hear the ugh, and I want to see the eyes rolling. So I know who I'm going to vibe with, who I want to work with, and who I am not the person best positioned to support.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And this is why I love learning about who someone is to the core. I feel like it just really shows up in like what you choose in life, what your purpose, is in life. So I love learning about you astrologically, but now for our audience to learn more about you, can you tell us more who you are? And maybe let's start off with what you were doing before Unstoppable Latina.
Before Unstoppable Latina, I was a burned out serial director in nonprofits. When I present it's even on my business cards, like, hi, I'm Paulette Piñero, a recovering perfectionist, and then the rest. Because that really, that language, but also that really defines me. Like, I really try to have it all and do it all and put together at the same time. So I spend the first 15 years of my career doing social impact, whether that was, as a social worker, but then as a leader and doing strategic planning and business development and social impact. And I loved it. I really, really loved it. But I still do it as a consultant, but, as I was growing in my career, there's two big things that I realized. One is that when I was focusing on growing on the corporate ladder, it was lonely. And it felt against what I believed was the way to grow, which was in community. So that was, I learned that, and it felt even more lonely because I was like, who wants to share their salary? Who wants to do this? And the other thing that was part of my career was leadership development. I have these national teams, and I was managing folks remotely before being remote was cool. And, travel and doing these strategies and doing programming. And I started to realize that as much as I loved the work that I was doing, I was also burned out because no one in the leadership spaces understood what I was going through. And, I was overcompensating, and it wasn't just like imposter syndrome. I believed that I knew what I was doing. I knew that I knew what I was doing, but I was burned out trying to be perfect for everyone else. So it's that perfectionism was part of my career. So now that's why I was like, I'm Paulette Piñero, I'm a recovering perfectionist. Like, this is for the rest of my life. But I spent 15 years of my career doing social impact and nonprofit strategy and business development. And that's what, going through that experience and not having folks who understood that in my family, or they were like, la cosita esa que tú haces, was what turned into Unstoppable Latina after. So I always happy, but it's one of those things when you look back and you're like, ¿Cómo yo hice todo eso? Like, why did I burn myself out so much?
Mm-hmm. And I like how the key word was, I was a perfectionist for everyone else, pouring into everyone else.
Oh, yeah. As a mommy, as a spouse, as like a daughter and a granddaughter, as an employee, like all of it. So it's sometimes I sit and I had to update my resume for a consulting gig the other day, and I just sat in front of my resume and I was like, these bullet points are great, but if I were to write the story, the story of not just what I did, but what I gave up for myself, like that is the resume that I want to show people. Because that's the resume that shows growth, continuous growth and development. These numbers, they're cute. I'm proud of that work, but the personal growth and how that impacted the work that I do, it's like I wish that was a resume. Like I wish that's what we could write in cover letters, because that's, now as an entrepreneur and someone who hires people, like that to me is what has value around talent. So it's very weird space to me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. And so at what point did you decide to make the transition, into your own business? At what point? Because I know you wrote like, my super poder is to guide Latina CEOs to harness your strengths, amplify their message, and monetize their super poder so they can become unstoppable. At what point were you like, how did you find out, like, this is my super poder and I'm going to do the jump and I'm going to do this?
It really started with a situation at work. So I was managing my team, and there was a staff retreat. And the last day, it was all about the staff, right? My direct reports and the other managers' direct reports. And, we left and we went to the office, and it was great. And as I was leaving my office that day, one of my direct reports called me. She's Latina, Afro-Latina, and she said, "Hey, Paulette, I want to talk to you because a conversation happened that made me feel very uncomfortable, and you need to know." One of our team members was saying that you were a diversity hire and that you didn't deserve that job, and that she doesn't care that you're a good manager. You just didn't work hard enough. And, I love leadership. I love people management. I love creating thriving environments for folks to grow. And it was hurtful because this staff member not only was married to an undocumented man and was going through that process, so like really aware of the systemic issues that especially Latinx folks go through. But I had personally taken so much time to mentor her. So it was very hurtful. And I just sat there and I, went to HR and said, like, how do you want me to address this? They were like, we're going to fire this person. I'm like, no, let me sit down. They were like, you're going to sit down? I'm like, give me a day. And I sat down and I looked at, I remember on my like big cubicle, I had my whole library of leadership and business books. And I looked at all of them and there was no framework that I could use to have a conversation with my direct report that addressed the emotion that I was feeling and the inequity that was happening in that conversation. So I pulled like having difficult conversations and pull some like Harvard Business Review journals and like a couple of things. And then I sat there and I was like, how do I have this conversation when I'm deeply hurt without losing my right? There was no Minda Harts at that time in 2018. There was no Tiffany Dufu. There was no Michelle Poler. Like none of them. How do I figure this out? And I just sat and started writing. I started writing kind of like my framework for leadership. And I had the conversation and then it was like, that went really well. And I was very open, like what you said hurt me. And this is why. But at the end of the day, that is not a reflection of the work and the values of the organization. So let's create a plan to move forward and really building a plan with someone that truly hurt me and the fear that they were serving our communities of color, right? Like of all the ramifications. But it was really the first time that it was like, someone has to create it. And for now, I'm going to create it for myself. And that turned into then sharing this with coworkers and then having conversations with friends into, I'm struggling with this. You know, it's all male. I'm the only female, or I'm the only person in a leadership position, and sharing those, and then mentoring and mentoring and mentoring a lot of Latinas, a lot of friends, and then the friend of the friend of the friend, building programs through DEI councils and doing board development, and then doing some trainings. And I just sat down that year in 2018 and wrote the business plan. I wrote the business plan for Unstoppable Latina. And then I said, well, I'm going to do this when I retire.
No.
It's like, I can't do this now. I'm going to do this when I retire. And then by the end of 2019, I just kept opening the business plan. And I was like, what if? And I sat down with my husband in January of 2020, and I said, I can't even sleep. What if I did this? And he looked at me and said, ya era hora. Like, about time. I didn't want to say anything, but it's about time. And I quit my job February 14th, 2020. I got 2 kids, one with disabilities, so I was like, I can't do both. And I have enough connections to work this out, and we have some savings. And a month later, everything closed. And I got sick with COVID. I went to the hospital. All these things happened. And then when I was at the hospital dying, that I looked back into everything that I had done in my life, I realized that I have given everything to everyone. I have sacrificed even the jobs that I had were about the insurance for Alex and this benefit and leaving at this time. And I was like, what did you ever do for yourself? And I was like, the only thing I ever wanted to do for myself was that business. And I promised myself, if I leave this hospital, I'm going to do it. And I left the hospital and I started doing my business and have never stopped ever since. And it started with focus with women in the intersection of career and business. And I realized that I love, Latinas growing in their career and business. But my superpoder was with entrepreneurs themselves, because they're, it's easier to see ourselves grow because the resume is growing. So we're like, soy jefa ahora, but the moment that we become entrepreneurs, es como que empezamos de cero. We're like, I know nothing. And I wanted to provide not just that leadership and strategy, but like building that brand for full-time entrepreneurs and kind of like share my story of how breaking up with perfectionism really allowed me to live the life that I wanted and deserved, and all the things that, I was able to do to bridge that gap, to like remove those obstacles for other jefas, because entrepreneurship is very lonely, and sometimes all we need is to know that someone else did it, so we see that it's a possibility for us. But it really started with that business plan and with that situation at work where I was like, I'm going to start doing something because I cannot be the only one sitting down at a Boston office at 5 o'clock, missing my train because I don't know how to manage a conversation when I'm being threatened simply because I was born in Puerto Rico. And it just started from there. And now to like look back at all the impact and all the mujeres and amazing women of color that I've been able to work. I like a year and a half ago, I realized that I no longer feel sad or pity about that situation. I'm thankful that it happened because it really put a mirror into also my own privilege and having the capacity to follow my dreams.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. And obviously it's needed, but like not only people who will want to figure out how to manage those conversations, some people probably don't even care how to go about it, do it the right way. And we end up in these toxic environments, in general. And so also sharing the stories, sharing and speaking, I feel like it allows us, like you said, to be able to see it. You can believe it for yourself too. So when starting, you're like, all right, we're going to start this. And so you're now a business coach, a writer, a speaker. When starting your service-based business, like, how did you start? Like, did you know these were all the services, streams of income you're going to open up and started with all of that? Or did you start with one thing and kind of grew from there?
Because I had been doing business development in the past in social impact, like I was aware of like the most successful business models and how to make them work. And so I knew that I had already done consulting and public speaking on the side. So I knew that I wanted to continue doing consultations and formalize my public speaking. But those were kind of like add-ons, and a lot of folks talk about like multiple streams of income, but they talk about them as separate, right? When you think about multiple streams of income for your business, I always encourage folks to think about like, how is that funneling into business? Like, how is that turning leads into prospects, into opportunities? So I wanted to do public speaking as a stream of income because working with Latinas, what I learned is that they need to build a relationship with someone before being able to pay. So who else can pay me for me to do this, to be able to bring this leads into my consulting or coaching? So my core offer when I started was the coaching, the one-on-one coaching, but I had the public speaking as a stream of income, and I had the doing trainings and workshops through some organizational partners, because they were 5-10% of my revenue, but it was very clear, and I knew that was the way for me to get folks for coaching, because I did not have a $10,000 budget for for ads, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
for a whole campaign. And that's part of the things that I teach my clients when we're doing their business realignment is like, yeah, like a blog with ads, it's great. A podcast is awesome. But if you don't know where it fits in the funnel, in your funnel or your sales process, is going to feel like work. And I
Mm-hmm.
knew that because of my experience doing business development in the past. But if not, if I didn't have that, I would have probably started with either too much or not enough.
Mm-hmm. And for like your public speaking journey, now like I've just seen you've definitely kind of been published and just been a part of some amazing opportunities. But like when starting off, I love listening to Latina speakers, and obviously those are the most impactful for me and like other Latinas to be able to see that. And so for you, how does one create this opportunity for themselves? Like what did that look like when you started off with speaking engagements as opposed to maybe like what those opportunities look like now? You're like, okay, how do you like, I want to speak. What do I speak about? Like, how do you go
Yeah.
about that?
Well, the first step is you need to find your superpoderes. And what I mean by that is like the one or two things that you do better than everyone else. Kay Hendricks talks about your zone of genius. I want to push you into finding your superpoderes, and I have a superpoder recipe that I share when I do workshops, and um, it's not just about what you do best than everyone else, and that brings your experience, your cultura, your beliefs, your values, but also who you want to work with and who you create value for.
Mm.
So I like to do this with, something that a lot of folks can relate to. Like you can say, well, I am a great teacher and my superpower is teaching. Okay, but what grades?
Mm.
What students? In an urban setting, in a suburban setting? If money was no object, would you continue teaching, or what would you teach about? Like the more specific it is, the better it is for you to market yourself and not just find opportunities, but start attracting the right opportunities for you. So I have folks that are like, I'm a marketing consultant. Well, what do you do? PR? Do you do design? Do you do campaigns? Are you writing? Are you storyboard? What frameworks do you use? Right? To find your superpoderes, I always encourage folks to ask themselves these three questions. One, what would you do for free every single day if money was no object? The second, if I were to pay you $1 million to speak for a whole hour, but you only had 5 minutes to prepare,
Ooh.
what would you speak about? And then third, if you were to decide who is in that room to hear you speak, tell me who those people are and
Mm-hmm.
where they are in their journey. And from those answers, you're able to start seeing trends. And a lot of folks find out that they would speak about something that they're not passionate about
Mm.
because that's what they do for work. But the moment that they can decide who's in the room, then they get closer to the folks that they want to work with. And then you put that together with what would I do for free? You start identifying some like trends of what feels well and what doesn't feel well. And then that way you start getting closer, like what are your strengths? What do you love to do? What is something that you're willing to die for? And being able to come up with one or two statements where you can say, this is what I want. Because if you don't know that, it doesn't matter how many beautiful media kits you create. Right? Like when you know that, it's easier for you to start saying, like, these are the events that I want to go to. These are the podcasts that I want to be a part of. So once you have the one or two superpolar statements, and they feel good to you, then being able to put together your media kit,
Mm-hmm.
have your bio ready, have an idea of some of the places that, you want to speak, and then start creating your thought leadership brand. Identify, like, now that you know who you want to be in that room, where do they hang out? Do they hang out on Instagram after work? They're scrolling at 3 a.m. on TikTok. Are they hanging out on, are they have LinkedIn open checking for jobs while they're at work? And then start sharing your superpoder and start sharing the things that you're passionate about in those platforms. Or for some people, they join a networking group or they go to the Chamber of Commerce, right? And start sharing your superpoder with the right people and with everyone, right? And that helps you attract. And then you have your bio ready. You have a nice headshot that your friend took of you outside. And you can start building your, not just your thought leadership, but you can start becoming a speaker because you know what you're passionate about. You know who are the people that you want to share your message with. And you're building a brand where now people are starting to think about you when they think about that superpoder or when they think about that group of people. And as you grow, then you get to amplify other amazing jefas doing similar or different work around you. And then you grow together.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I hope everybody, when they're listening to this episode, you are taking notes, you are writing down these questions, journaling them, like all these great pieces of information to put that together. I love it. I love it so much. And I can only imagine, like, how much work it just kind of takes to craft, I feel like, just like around your framework, just any sort of coaching just in general, because it's not like, I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to, teach people, like, do this, do that, to really just make it so impactful. And, when starting your business, when growing it, besides being like, I'm going to quit my job in February and then, this whole world collapses in March, throughout your journey, like, what has been a challenge that you faced where you started your business, and how did you overcome it? I'm sure there's been a bunch.
Yeah, well, it was mostly me. My worst enemy.
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes, right? Yeah, I can talk about like systemic challenges of like, going into spaces and like not be treated respectfully, like seeking funding and being ignored. A lot of people like, why don't you, folks that are not from our communities, like, that's cute, but it sounds like a nonprofit. I'm like, no, I'm here to make mucho dinero, permiso. Or, oh, but Latinos don't purchase. Latinos don't spend money. And me being like, have you seen the Latino GDP report? We can, as we're a country, the Latinx folks in the US, we can compete with the GDP of France. So like, no. But I think the biggest challenge or the biggest obstacle was, getting away from those perfectionism and the perfectionist tendencies of, what is the standard, and creating a standard for myself that was not just impossible, but not required. To be able to learn what it is to alpha, beta test before launching, to be able to say like, launch ugly, or this is enough and I can build from here because I don't have enough information to see if this will be a success or not. And then, doing a lot of the mindset work around the leadership piece. So even though I do, marketing consulting and business strategy, can't do any of that if you're not able to embrace that you are the CEO of your business, even if you run it from your closet with your dog.
With the dog, of course.
Yes, like Boris is my CFO, he's somewhere around here. But, even if you'd run it, on Tuesdays from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. while your kids are sleeping, is that for you to be able to run your business and make it profitable and make it work for you, you have to embrace that you are the CEO. And that is the first piece, that no matter whether I work with someone once through a VAP day or a year through coaching, if we don't work on that CEO mindset, and for those who are taking notes, there's three major things that a CEO does. They create an inspiring vision. Then they build they create a plan to achieve that vision, the strategy. I know strategy is a big word that is overused, but strategy means a vision with a plan. And then the third piece is that they inspire others to achieve that vision. If you can create a vision, build a plan to achieve it, and inspire others, whether that's your brand, whether that's collaborators, whether that's employees or clients, when you're able to harness those three things and match it with knowing how to verbalize your superpowers and create a team of success that is just for you as the CEO, right? A mentor, a champion, or sponsor, right? You build your therapist. Then the way that you approach business, it's very different, because you are not just creating value for your CEO, for your pocket, then you start creating value for the people you want to work with, for your future clients. You stop seeing competition and start seeing opportunities to collaborate. And a lot of people talk about, like, I want to prioritize competition over collaboration over competition. Oh, okay. Well, they say the other one too. Like, it's like, you can do that when you trust yourself, when you know the value that you can offer, and that way you can complement other people, you can share resources, and you're able to amplify and elevate others because you know what you bring and you trust yourself as the CEO of your business, that we both got different sazon, and we're both going to thrive. And that not every client is for you, but it can be for someone else. So doing that, like leveling up as a CEO, and it, even though I had done leadership development, even though I was in leadership positions, and knowing that this is the key, that is still work that I have to do within myself all the time. That is work that I have to talk to my mentors and talk to my coach and talk to my champions all the time, because systemic wise and culturally, it just goes against, de calladita se ve más bonita, que me decía mi abuela. And, stay quiet y baja la cabeza, and like, don't be loud. But it takes some work, and I highly, even if someone's listening, they're like, I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm a career person. Thinking like a CEO and harnessing your superpoderes are really going to allow you to grow, but also you're going to realize how you should never give it 100% anywhere, because no one deserves all that magia. Not even in your business, but also at work. And it really like helps you kind of like shift that mindset of like, it doesn't matter what I do in career or business, like I can be a CEO because I know what I need to do to be able to show up as a leader and share what I want to share with others. Like, esos superpoderes que tengo, now I know how to share them. And now I know how to attract the opportunities that are right for me.
Attract, not burn yourself out. I just like how you said also like how to approach your business. And I think, what was it? In one of your emails, I think on the bottom you have something like, read me, something about it not being an emergency. What is it? I don't
know. I worked, I was a social worker, and my first job at 18 was running. Well, I was developing and then running a suicide prevention clinic at a college. And then I worked in human services, and then, I was in these emergency spaces where people's lives were at risk. I worked in elder care and like going to court and people not having food or medications and dying. And when I transitioned out of those like high trauma emergency spaces, took me a long time to realize that if no one's dying, nothing is an emergency.
Mm.
So I have on my email signature that because nothing that I do is an emergency, that I will be responding in 2 to 3 business days as needed. And I put some information about the bias of professionalism, like with that equity and just this focus on like urgency is part of white supremacy culture. And I'm not for that. So just because it's urgent for you does not mean that it has to be urgent for me. And if we didn't talk about urgency before, it's not going to change. And I have a lot of people that do not want to work with me because of that. And
I love it.
yeah. But that's when I talk about like the importance of your superpoderes. Is like for me to share my superpoderes with you, with my clients, con quien sea, right? I need to be well rested. I need I'm not empty. I worked on empty for like 33 years, so that's not happening anymore. I can be the best coach. I can do all the marketing consulting that you want if I'm well rested. I have food. My kids are all right, and I'm not thinking of who's gonna pick them up and crying at the floor after. So that's how for me to show up my superpoderes and show up for my clients and my communities. I can't, there's no sense of urgency and I need to be well rested. So that's a boundary that I have. And a lot of people are just like, yo quiero like rápido, like contéstame in 12 hours. Why are you not responding on the weekends? So
What? I don't know.
I'm like, yep. And I'm like, no, I need to put this statement in my email signature.
Weed them out.
Yes, exactly, right? Like the thing about sharing your superpoderes and how you show up as a leader, it's about giving that messaging, right? Like that is to detract the wrong people for me, but that attracts very clearly the people that are all about my vibe and what I'm able to share. So the more that you do, the more confident you get around your superpoderes, your speaking, your thought leadership, what you bring, whether that's like personal or career wise, the easier it gets to attract the right people and to detract people que no están para ti.
Oh my gosh, I love that. It's like a great test. I think I passed. But I think it also shows like where it shows like where people are maybe like in their journey, because a lot of people are like, maybe they are like, I need to go, burn myself out, do everything, be everywhere. But if you're not showing up as your best self, people are like, ponte las pilas. And I actually work me how we have a sticker called recarga las pilas. Actually, let's rest, let's recharge, like how can you show up for others when you're not showing up for yourself, And I remember my therapist, I was in that like burning myself. I need to do these 5,000 things. He's like, but what do you really need to do? Do you really need to do? Does that all need to happen today? I was like, you know what? No. So when I get there, it's just kind of like, okay, what actually needs to happen today? Can this wait? Can this, it's not an emergency, don't live your life with everything being an emergency.
Yeah. I have my to-do list is like, there's 3 columns. One is what I have to do, and it can only be 3 things on there. There's no more space. I can add once I take one out. The other is what I want to do. And then the third one is what others want me to do. And usually 80% of what others want me to do, and it's not client work, it's just like, por favor, can you send this? A lot of it doesn't ever get into the to-do list. And on Friday, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I don't need to be doing that. Or this is something that I have to delegate. Or why did I add it to my to-do list? Or maybe it's just sending them to the right person or to someone else. And it really has helped me kind of like not just do less, but be more impactful with what I do. Because it's not about doing more, it's like really the impact.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my core values, not just for myself, but for my business, is make shit happen. And um, another place they say, let's turn your purpose into impact. But it's really like, you know, I want to make shit happen, but I want to make impactful shit happen. And if it doesn't benefit our communities, if it doesn't benefit my growth, knowing the impact that it will have in the systems around me, then it's probably not something that I should be spending most of my time doing. But a lot of that, like I'm there because a lot of therapy. There was no, I didn't wake up. I didn't wake up like this. It's doing weekly and biweekly therapy and having a building, intentionally building my success team and journaling and growing and yoga and failing a lot and then being like, that was not rest today, but tomorrow we'll do it. We'll try again.
Love everything that you're doing and your business is growing. So, if you can share with us, what goals do you have for Unstoppable Latina?
Ooh, oh my God, so many. Um, I think of all the goals that I have, for me, the most important one for this year is to not just trust my knowledge, but to trust my intuition. And that's a difficult goal. You know, revenue.
Such a Pisces response to intuition.
But it's like, yes, I have revenue goals. Yes, I have client and project goals. But those are great. But how I achieve those, like the values that I prioritize to achieve them, are as important to me as the goals themselves. And my vision for this year and my intention for this year is show yourself what's possible. And that's something that I talk about with all my clients when I'm working with them. And but for me, what I want to achieve is that I am in a space, right? Because I'm the CEO, the Unstoppable CEO of Unstoppable Latina, is to be able to not just trust my knowledge, but also my intuition. And that means that I trusting my superpoderes and that I have what I need today, not tomorrow, in a month, after another certification, right? Like I have what it takes today to be able to create transformation for my clients. And then that I have the internal mindset and knowledge to trust my intuition to tell me when an opportunity is right for me and when it isn't. And I usually go either or. So that is what I want to achieve for Unstoppable Latina for me as the CEO. But for my business in itself, I've always seen Unstoppable Latina as a movement. And whether I work with someone for a day or I work with someone for a client for a year, is that impact that when as mujeres, when as women of color, when as you know, or at the intersection, like as folks of color, when we understand, find, and harness our superpoderes, and then we share them with the world, there we create lasting impact that disrupts systemic oppression. And to me, that's what Unstoppable Latina is about. The way that we do it is through business strategy and marketing. But the movement is looking for Latinas to feel empowered to work on the things that they want to work on with the people that they want to work on and make a shit ton of dinero so they can become active participants of their local economies. Because right now, the active participants are usually people that don't look like us, don't represent us, or don't even care about our communities, so that we have not just the knowledge, but the leadership to be able to be active participants of our local economies, that we can make decisions because we will make no, yo no me lo inventé, right? Research also shows that Hispanic and Latinx businesses provide better benefits, better salaries, and are activate their communities, right? So that that's why seeing yourself as a CEO is so important to me. Doesn't matter, um, from consultant, freelancer to having staff, because then you're an active participant, not just in your communities, but the economic development of our gente. And when we talk about by us, for us, that is part of it. So that's, if I can play a 0.1%, like a teeny, 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 tiny percent of that, um, I it's a life worth living for me.
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like you are absolutely living in your purpose and helping other Latinas live in their purpose and be the best Latina CEO. I love what you're doing. Before we end our conversation, I have just a quick few rapid fire questions for you to answer.
Yes. Mira para acá.
Something comes to mind, feel free to expand if you want for any of them. So the first one is, what is your favorite me time activity?
Naps. Napping. It's 32 degrees today, but the moment that it goes up to 45, there is an hamaca, but it's outside of this door of my office that I take naps all the way until the first snow. And because I always thought that like rest was laziness. And yo duermo cuando me muera. No, I am all about rest and sleep and naps and learning how that allows me to be more creative. So that's the best way that I take care of myself now, is resting and naps.
Nice. I love that. Great advice. Nap more. Okay, next question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
The best piece of advice I've ever received. Ay, tantos y tantos. I think it was when Bad Bunny said, "Tú no eres bebecita, tú eres bebesota." No, but the best piece of advice I've ever received was someone shared a therapist shared a quote with me that said, I have it written down here. I have two quotes, and one of them is, "What you seek is seeking you." And it's by Rumi, and it's a reminder that just because you feel like it's not coming, it means that someone's seeking you. You just have to make sure that they find you.
Mm. Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, and then next question. What is a piece of advice you would give anyone wanting to pursue a business like yours?
To remember that um, you will fail, but if you're clear on your purpose, you can always reinvent yourself.
You will fall on your face.
You will fail. You will fail. But as long as you know what your purpose is, your why, and you are clear on your values, the what you do or what you offer, if it fails, you just go back to those and you will find another way to live your purpose. And you don't have to. My company, when it started, was Lead Media, and now it's called Unstoppable Latina, to honor my clients and honor myself.
Hmm. Oh, I love that. I love that. I hope we're writing all of the things down from this podcast. Okay. Next question. What is the best resource that has helped you along your journey? This can be book, podcast, app, workshops, etc.
Oh, the best resource that has helped me in my journey has been, um, I will always go back to, Minda Hart's The Memo, her book. Um, it was it was the first time I felt seen, that I knew so many women of color were going through this, but it was the first time that a book that someone named it, called it out, and gave actionable tools to be able to move forward. And I love Minda Harts. One day she will be my friend. Um, but it's one of those books, and then I have the audiobook too that I go back to, even though it's mostly for career women of color, that I go back to as a reminder that my lived experience, that a lot of the things that I might experience in a networking event or something, like it's gaslighting, and that my emotions and the discrimination and all of that is existing, and I'm not being, no me lo estoy imaginando, no estoy being dramatic. They exist, and that someone else was brave enough to put her story out with actionable tools. And it's just a great reminder to be able to go back when I need to fill my cup and remind myself that no soy la única, and there's another way to survive it.
Oh, okay. I love that. I love that. And last question, where can listeners connect with you online? Drop the social media handles, website, where can we find you?
Yes, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram at unstoppable_Latina. I share grants, tools, and resources to grow your business on your own terms, but I also share my story as an introverted Latina CEO with ADHD. So you know that if I can do it, so can you. And then you can also connect with me on LinkedIn, which is my favorite platform, and where I make sure where I share the most of the content. You can find me as Paulette Piñero, because there's no ñ. Paulette Piñero. And Paulette Piñero on LinkedIn, I share tools and resources and stories and amplify a lot of great Latinas doing amazing work on LinkedIn. So at Unstoppable_Latina or at Paulette Piñero. I don't go and look at me on Instagram at Paulette Piñero, because all I do is share things about the housewives and Bravo.
Yes, I love the Housewives and Bravo. What are your favorites? Extra bonus question.
Okay. So Potomac,
Yes.
Miami,
Oh, yes.
Jersey. But I'm also a Vanderpump Rules stan.
Yes.
My friend and I have been taking notes, and we decided we're going to do a Vanderpump Rules podcast. And as toxic and horrible as it is, I love my Southern charm.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I just love good trash TV.
Oh, I love it. It makes me happy. It's like napping and Bravo. It's just therapy.
Right? It's like no toxicness in my life, but I love to watch the toxicness on the TV screen.
I love it. I just look at it, and the sociologist in me, number one. But second, I think it's like very liberating to see people that have a lot of wealth and still have similar struggles. But secondly, that they can be a hot mess and still be successful in other things, right? So it's like, yes, if they can do it and be a hot mess and still build successful businesses, I don't need to be this put together. So yes, I do speaking engagements with jeans, my Converse, and my lavender blazer. And take me as I am, porque esta gringa, they're making a lot of money, still being a hot mess on national TV. So I can be a tiny mess and be fine.
Exactly. It's you meet more people, you're like, yo, okay, you don't have it together. Nobody has it together. You know what?
No one has it together. No one does. And they might have it together in one part of their life, but the other burners, no. It's not happening.
I love that. Nice. I love that we added that in there. That's awesome. Well, I will make sure to link all of your social media, website, LinkedIn, and that's going to be another campaign we have to do. Add the ñ for LinkedIn. We have to do that.
Yes, they has it on my profile, but URLs don't have an ñ or like even Instagram and all that. Like I can't be like at Paulette Piñero, and I'm like it's so easy. Like Alt 164 hold function on your keyboard. Like come on, it's easy. Yes, we need to do a campaign, like a ñ campaign.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Paulette, for joining us on the Work Mija podcast. I loved having you on here. And thank you everyone for listening. Make sure you follow Paulette on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on TikTok, the Unstoppable Latina. You are her. She is you. Let's connect.
Yes, please connect. I respond to my DMs, I promise. In 2 to 3 business days, because it doesn't change the policy there either. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope everybody enjoys. And until next time, bye.
Bye.
Visit workmija.com. That's WERK to pick up your new favorite Chingona Fuel cafecito mug or our Bet on Yourself Mija and No Pares Mija apparel for yourself and your comadres chingonas. Don't forget to follow Werk Mija on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for fun Latinx inspired content. Make sure to tune in to the Werk Mija podcast and listen to more inspiring mujeres.